You know, most of us here realize that there are very few things in life which have a more lasting effect on you than being a crime victim. When you're violated in some fashion, from your property being taken, your identity being stolen, your person or that of a loved one being assaulted in some fashion, it has a lasting effect on you. Now, we see this every day in law enforcement and the court systems. In fact, last year in 2017, the Cobb District Attorney's Victim Witness Assistant Unit made close to 131,000 units of service to over 19,000 victims. Phone calls, letters, contacts of some nature, 131,000 in a single year. And despite facing the strain and stress of being a crime victim, we all see amazing resilience from these individuals. They're strong, and we're honored and we're humbled to walk with them as they go about the task of putting their lives back together. At this point, I'm very honored to call on one of our dear friends, one of our major partners in our quest to make sure we protect the victims' rights, and that's our good friend, the sheriff of this great county, Mr. Neil Warren. Neil?
Good evening, folks. Good to be with you. And Vic, Barry, I'm honored to be a partnership with the two of you and your prosecutors that work with you, protecting the victims here in Cobb County. Today, we have days like this when we celebrate this week of victims' rights. It reminds me of why we do this job. As I look around and I see the chiefs of the different police agencies, prosecutors that are here, it reminds me of why we do it. And it's to help you victims, because our whole system, the prosecutors, the law enforcement officers, we're all, the reason we do this job is because of the victims, protecting you and the citizens of this county. You know, it's sad that here in Cobb County that each and every one of us could possibly be a victim of a crime, whether it be a assault, a rape, a murder. We all could be victims of that. We see it every day. And crime only, it doesn't just hurt the one victim, it has an impact on their whole families. And we, as law enforcement officers and prosecutors, I can pretty much speak for these gentlemen because I've known, worked with them and a lot of their colleagues for over 30 years or longer. I know in their heart what they want to do is do the right thing and protect the citizens. And when you do become a victim, we want to make sure that you protect it and that you get your day in court. Like I said, it's sad, but all of us could be a victim. And I know from my experience of almost 40 years in law enforcement, I have seen many victims. And I know it's hard to be that victim. I know it's hard to get over it. I know you have to struggle a lot. I've had victims in my family, and I've seen you victims that and what you've had to deal with. And so I just want you folks here to look around at all the law enforcement officers, the prosecutors that are here. They're here for you, and they want to be for you and the other victims, unfortunately, that we will have here in this county. So I know you folks have went through a lot, and you're going to have a lot of struggles, and it's hard to do. But I just want you to know that the men and women that works in the criminal justice society and community here in Cobb County are here for the victims, and that's our job to do the right thing. So with that, God bless each and every one of you, and I hope that you can deal with the pain that you're having to deal with. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sheriff. It's my honor now to introduce our other co-partner this evening, somebody that's a dear friend. We go back a long, long way for many years. In fact, I think Barry is the longest serving full-time Solicitor General in the state of Georgia. So it's my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce the Cobb Solicitor General, Mr. Barry Morgan.
This program's been going for about 10 minutes. And what that means statistically across the United States, 20 people have been a victim of a violent crime since this program began. Statistically, over 200 property crimes have occurred across this country since we've been here. People have been victimized while we are here, reaching out to all the victims that we have in this county. As Vic said, we both have victim witness units that work tirelessly to make sure that the victims of the crime in this county, this judicial circuit, are well served. We had well over 40,000 victim contacts as well during our year last year. Statistically, one person has been murdered since we began. 2 people have been raped, and there have been almost 20 aggravated assaults across the United States since we began. Let's remember those victims. Let's remember what they've gone through, the struggle that they have had, and how we can help them when they come into our arena. And with that, I would like to introduce to you the mother of a victim who is going to come and speak to you today, Miss Deanna Schilke.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. I first would like to say thank you to the Victim Services of Cobb County, especially Lindsay Gardner and Jessica Hines. Our family could not have made it through our ordeal without their help. I am here to let you know there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Our nightmare began in 2013 when we found out our child had received an inappropriate text on his phone. Our son was reluctant to tell his story. However, through this unit, he and our family were able to help bring a predator to justice. I understand some people want to just sweep it under the rug and try moving on. This only allows monsters to continue to prey on their victims. My son's predator was in a position of power and thought he could get away with his actions. If we had not reported the situation, he would still be out there molesting other victims. Throughout the process, we found that he had likely been doing this for years. After the detectives had built their case and made the arrest, we were contacted by the Victim Services Division, who held our hand and walked us through the process step by step. They were very accommodating to help our son to work through this process. Yes, it can be a long process, but without our cooperation, justice would not have been served. As the parent of a victim, it affects the entire family. I can't stress enough that as hard as it seems, that your cooperation makes the unit be able to bring these monsters to justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna, for those remarks, for your candor, for your strength, and for speaking with us this evening. Thank you. God bless. And thank you, Mr. Sheriff and Mr. Solicitor, for your partnership, for your friendship, and for your support as we fight this battle every day. Thank you to our partners out there, particularly in law enforcement, for what you do day in and day out. We stand with you and we appreciate and honor you. But most of all, thank you to these victims for your strength, your dignity, your honesty, and for your willingness to come forward and speak and be with us this evening. Take a few minutes when we get through in just a moment, visit with our partners, get some information if you need it. Make sure you wear a ribbon the rest of this week, signifying what this week means and what it stands for. Thank you for being here tonight, sharing this time with us, and may God bless each and every one of you. Be safe. Thank you.
We celebrate the fact that victims are resilient. We celebrate the fact that there are services out here for victims. We celebrate the fact that victims survive. And we celebrate the fact that victims thrive. So it was more of a celebration of overcoming than dwelling on being a victim. One thing that we know about being a victim of a crime is that being involved in the criminal justice system is not easy. It's time consuming, it's tedious, it's frustrating. And that victims are just everyday people like me and you that come to us with different needs. Sometimes those needs are counseling, sometimes those needs are financial resources, sometimes those needs are support groups. And so we have to know what is available in the community and be able to provide those outreach services to victims so that we can make them whole again. Many people in the general public have an idea that court is like television. And so that's one of the myths that we dispel very early on, is that it is not like television and the reality that comes with being in the court system. And more than anything, they're just never alone. We can't promise a victim that there's going to be a good outcome. We can't promise a victim that the offender's going to go to jail. What we can promise the victim is they are never going to be alone in this process, and we're always going to be there when they need us.